Hey everyone, you are listening to the Guitar Speak podcast. My name is Matt Wakeling and this is the show that I produce in Sydney, Australia. Every week we have deep dive interviews with leading guitarists and guitar figures, and midweek we drop our iconic albums series, and that's what you are tuned into today. I'm here with Rob Rhodes and Gabor Josika, and we are checking out U2's Achtung Baby. Today's episode is brought to you by Fretboard Biology, the comprehensive online guitar course put together by Joe Elliott. Now, Joe is not only a fantastic guitar player, he draws on his years of experience as the ex-head of guitar at the Guitar Institute of Technology and also at the McNally Smith Music College. Here's a few words from Joe about the course.
You're tired of wading through hundreds of random guitar videos and just want to become a better player. Fretboard Biology is your answer. Fretboard Biology is a self-paced, college-level program that'll give you the right instruction, in the right amounts, and in the right order. You'll learn the same information I taught to thousands of other guitar players over 30 years of teaching in top music colleges. If you want to make real progress with your guitar playing, then sign up for a free 7-day trial at fretboardbiology.com.
All right, iconic albums number 13. I'm joined by my friends Rob Rhodes.
Hello, Matt. Hello, Gabor.
And Gabor Josika.
Hey, Matt and Rob, how you guys doing?
Great. Great to see you guys. Number 13, fellas.
I know. Lucky
13, you bet.
What could go wrong?
Fingers crossed.
Well, today it's my turn. So I chose a U2 record. Now, I really wanted to do a U2 record. I had a few in the pot. It came down to this. Came down to Joshua Tree, All That You Can't Leave Behind, and Achtung Baby. So they're probably my three favorite U2 records, and they all kind of span three kind of eras of U2, perhaps. So I went with Achtung Baby because it would be my number one U2 record. So released in November '91, the 7th studio album from U2, and my pathway into U2 when I was, I think during the Synchronicity episode we did, the episode Gabor chose a few weeks ago, I was saying I was such a headbanger when I went and saw Sting in 85 or 86 or whatever. I just didn't understand it. U2 was one of the bands that was kind of getting me out of power chords and opening my ears a little bit. I think I had some older musician friends who were into U2. So I think that was a bit of an influence. But I remember getting the bus to Parramatta. I used to live in the Hills District in sort of Western Sydney. Got the bus into Parramatta to Mayfair Music. I don't know if you guys remember stores that used to sell records and musical instruments.
Yeah.
So
I do, yes.
Brashes.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Yeah.
Rob, product placement. Used to work there. So,
yeah.
well, this is like this, but about 1/10 the size of Brashes. They had, I still remember the instruments. They used to sell lots of Onyx guitars. They had a thin line Onyx acoustic. I thought was cool. They would sell Gorilla amplifiers with the tube stack button. I really wanted one of those, but I never got one. And they had one. It was a secondhand The Strat.
Oh,
do you remember those?
Yeah.
Kind of like a cool. I think it wasn't the Elite series, but it was around that time. I think it was sort of Dan Smith era Fender. Anyway, I digress. But I with my own money, caught the bus in, and I bought Under a Blood Red Sky on cassette, which was an EP, and it was the Live at Red Rocks album. So it had New Year's Day and Sunday, Bloody Sunday, all live versions of that. Unreal. So yeah. I think that was recorded in '83. Anyway, man, I just wore that out. I loved it. I didn't know who The Edge was. I knew like the singer was saying, "This is The Edge." And I'm thinking, is he singing about the edge of the stage? Or is it some heavy metaphor or something? Eventually found out it was a guitar player. So that was formative U2 for me. So I would set up a little Casio keyboard with half-size keys. Once I finally saw a video and I realized The Edge was playing piano, then guitar in New Year's Day. So I'll do the dung, 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 dung. I'll do the piano solo, and then I'll do the guitar solo. That's so good. None of them good or anything, but that was my gateway to U2. But yeah, I guess, The Edge, he's just one of the great sonic architects of our lifetime, I would say. So I was super keen.
Absolutely.
Super keen to do one of the records. So We'll get into Achtung Baby, but I'm interested in hearing your U2 stories, gentlemen. What was your gateway into U2? Gabor, did they have U2 in Austria?
Yes, they even had a subway line called the U2 in Austria as well. In Vienna, anyway, that's a different thing. But yeah, actually, I got into U2 through that album, Achtung Baby. That was the album. I mean, I was aware of U2 before in on MTV. I mean, where the Streets of the Name clip, where they're on the roof of the house, and what's the other one? I mean, a lot of the songs of the previous albums, they played them to death on, or not to death, but they played them a lot
Sure,
on MTV in
yeah.
Europe. But I remember the Even Better Than a Real Thing film clip, where they keep spinning around and around and around and around. I love that song, and I really like the film clip and the vinyl outfit that Bono was wearing. And so yeah, this album got me into U2, and then through that album, I discovered a lot of the previous stuff, and yeah. So and I mean, like you're saying, The Edge. I reckon one of the very few people instantly recognizable. As soon as you hear the guitar, you go, "That's The Edge." He's just got such a style and such a unique hit. It's just him, and you just know it's him. Even if he plays stuff that doesn't sound like the other stuff he plays, but you just know it's him instantly. He's just one of those few people that has that gift. I think that you just know he has such a unique voice. That is
Yeah,
his.
good call. Definitely.
Yeah.
How about you, Rob?
It's weird because this album was 1991, so I think I was in year 10. And again, another one of those bands you couldn't escape. Radio, TV, They were everywhere. I think when I started learning guitar, that Sunday Bloody Sunday riff was one of those things that we learnt and played over and over again. And then like Rattle and Hum was huge, and the BB King thing, the extended Rattle and Hum, the movie, and that was just everywhere. But I never really, I wouldn't say that I was a U2 fan. And then sometime around 2000, I think I sort of traced back. That's when I got into this album. I think maybe it was $10 at a record shop in Liverpool. We used to go to Groovy Tunes in Liverpool, catch the train.
Opposite Anthony's Music?
Yeah.
On the corner. It was a great place.
So we'd buy all our secondhand CDs there, and I think I got that there and took it home, and I was just, 2000. So spellbound, absolutely. And then I got Zooropa and then the Pop Mart Live VHS. And
That's cool. That's such a cool show.
Yeah. Oh, so good. And then that got me like straight into U2. All That You Can't Leave Behind is sort of where I left them behind. Okay. I didn't go any further than that. That's a great record, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But they just reached their absolute maximum capacity for what I could take in at that time.
Yeah.
So, that sort of was my introduction. They were just everywhere. Triple M on the radio. And you just couldn't escape them. But I think this record, once I discovered it, it was just very different because they were very lo-fi, almost indie rock, maybe alternative punk-ish kind of thing early on.
Yeah.
They had the big pop hits, but this sort of took them into new territory, very industrial, edgy, pun intended, because this is described very much as the Edge's record. So that's sort of my history and affiliation with U2.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I always love the different perspectives from us at different points in our lives and that kind of thing. Yeah, so as we said, the album released in November 91. It was recorded in, throughout 90 and 91. And as you alluded to, Rob, was a new direction, and it was a very deliberate reaction against some of their earlier work. So they'd just come off the Rattle and Hum tour, which I saw actually in Australia in whenever that was, 89, 88, with BB King and all those guys, man. Unreal. Amazing.
Killer.
But for U2, that was like their experimental record getting into American music. So into gospel music and the blues, or the U2 version of the blues. I love I can't remember what song it is, but Bono says, "Okay, Edge, play the blues," and he just does some crazy Edge thing. It's the best.
But, like some of great blues players came out of Ireland, like Rory Gallagher.
Rory Gallagher and Gary Moore.
Gary Moore, yeah.
The Edge.
And the Edge.
Yeah.
He's on the edge of blues.
Oh, man. So the record was produced by Daniel Lanois and Brian Eno. Now, they'd worked with the band before. Lanois, he was, what I've read, he was more in charge of the sonics of production, the nuts and bolts of it in a lot of ways. Interesting. He was tired of making slick, polished records with some of the other acts he was working on. So it seems like he was in a good place to take U2 into some new places. And Brian Eno, who I love his ambient stuff.
Yeah, me too.
Those records he did with Robert Fripp, so cool. Apparently, Eno would just drop in every now and then for a week, every month or so, just to make sure the record didn't sound like U2. So if you listen to any interviews with any band members or the producers, they're all saying the same thing. We were trying to get away from that beautifully crafted U2 sound that by the Joshua Tree was pretty locked in. I think Bono said it best. He said, "We're cutting down the Joshua Tree with this record."
Yeah, that's
wasn't also partially that's why they went to Berlin. And I mean, in those days, West Berlin, I mean, it was a very, very different place. I mean, I don't know if any of you guys have ever been to Berlin when it was East and West Berlin, but my mum was born in Berlin, so I did go there a couple of times when it was still East and West Berlin. And it's a very, very trippy, it was a very trippy place back in those days. And I think, wasn't that one of the reasons why they went there as well, just to be somewhere very removed from the world almost?
Yeah. And it was very, very freshly opened up, the entire city. Yeah. That's a trip that your mum was born there.
Yeah, my mum was born there. And I mean, totally unrelated, but yeah, back in the days when it was East and West Berlin. I mean, this would have been just after.
Yeah.
Was it just after?
Was it 89 the wall came down?
I think possibly 89.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what do you remember of that?
It used to
sorry? Was that would have obviously been a big deal at your house then?
It sort of was, yeah. I remember David Hasselhoff singing as the wall came down. No, but I mean, the trippy thing back in the days was when we used to go from Austria to, I mean, this is totally not related to this album, but when you used to drive into West Berlin, they literally, you go to the border, the East German border from Germany to East Germany, and you go through, and there's a road, a highway or freeway or whatever, no exit, just goes directly to Berlin. And quite often, my dad would say, well, I reckon if you look at that car behind us, they're following us. And we once, I think I had to pee or something, and we stopped, and I was little, I was like, I don't know, 6, 7 years old. And 26, 27. No, I was like, 5 years old, 6 years old. And I got out and at the side of the road, because there's no rest stops, no stop. Yeah. And we stopped and I peed, and the car stopped and asked, what are we doing? Wow. It's just, that's the way it was. And people don't quite realize it wasn't that long ago. It was like that. So going to Berlin, it was a very weird place. And I think it wasn't that long after the fall of the wall. It would have still been quite a weird place.
Yeah, right. Wow. That's full on. When I was really little, we had friends that had fled East Germany. A couple, and then emigrated to Australia. And man, full on. Anyway,
my whole family came from Germany too.
Sorry.
My whole family came from Germany in the 50s.
No way.
Yeah. So both sides, mum and dad.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, probably the 40s.
Okay.
Yeah.
Man.
40s for my mum's side and 50s for my dad's side.
But part of that post-war move out of Europe.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is turning to a post-war political podcast.
Oh, all right. Where were we? So the band did some early sessions in Berlin. It seemed like everyone was really keen to reinvent U2, but they weren't really sure how to do it, and things got a bit strained. So The Edge had been listening to a lot of industrial music and dance music, and working on some live theatre scores and stuff that really stuff outside of his U2 wheelhouse. So they were struggling, and there was even talk about, did they want to keep being a band after all these years on the road, and then this reinvention not really working. But it seems like the breakthrough song was One, when they started jamming, and the song One started fleshing out. So that gave the guys some confidence that they were heading in some sort of direction. And the rest of the album was recorded in Ireland, in a couple of other studios. And the rest, as they say, is history. Went on to win 5 Grammys. There were, 2 Grammys, one for the band, one for the production team of Eno and Lanois. There were 5 singles from the record, which is, I guess, compared to No Doubt a couple of weeks ago, that's amateur status, but 5 singles on one record is massive. So,
and they all did really well.
Yes,
That's the other thing as well,
yeah. Killer singles. So songs, what are some standouts? Gabor, what for your first U2 record?
Well, for me, like I said, Even Better Than a Real Thing probably got me into U2, and later on, so probably that song and The Edge and Tom Morello got me into wanting a whammy pedal.
Yeah.
And I think The Edge generally is the guy who got me into effect, because I think this was sort of one of the first albums that was really quite effects heavy as well. I mean, he's done the delays and stuff before.
Yep.
But I think this album, there was a lot of effects on it. And then going into Zooropa as well, which I always kind of put them almost as one, the 2 albums. They kind of, to me, they kind of coexist a lot, like Achtung Baby and Zooropa.
Yeah.
But I really got into that. I love the slide guitar solo in that as well. It's a killer solo. And for ages, I didn't know what the guitar was he was playing, which was the Rickenbacker. And I love the shape. That's the thing I just remember of that album, is the weird vinyl outfits and him constantly spinning around, and the cool whammy intro and the slide solo and the guitar. That's sort of what I remember.
Yeah.
Okay, other standout track, Zoo Station. I love that industrial drum sound at the start, and the cool guitar riff with the kind of room reverb. And but again, it starts off so not U2 sounding, but then as soon as the verse comes in and the Edge starts playing those arpeggiated chords, it's just so unmistakingly Edge.
Yeah.
Just, One is actually a song I always, if you really listen to it, it's such an effects-heavy song, but it doesn't sound like it. But I think it's probably the most effects-heavy song on the album.
It's subtle, but yeah, there's stuff going on.
It's super subtle, and it works because, I mean, he makes it sound like an organ in bits, the guitar with like a Leslie and that sort of lo-fi parts. If you really listen to what he plays, I think it's quite a, from an effects point of view, quite a like interesting song, because it's a ballad and it works so well with the song. And I think that, again, to me, is sort of what The Edge is all about. It's using effects, lots of effects, but not, they meld into the song. It becomes a song, and it doesn't stick out. But yeah, if you listen to that song, really listen to all the different guitar parts and all the very, very different sounds that he has on that song. What's another one? The Fly. I mean, there's so many good songs on it. That's the problem. You can say just about every song. The Fly. I love that riff. I love the solo again in it. Mysterious Ways. Just such cool. It took me forever trying to work out how to recreate that sound, the guitar sound, because it's a million effects.
Oh yeah, Mysterious Ways, you mean?
Mysterious Ways. Until you find out that it's just one of the presets on a Korg A3, and he just dialed up one of the presets. But I had to recreate that sound for we did a bunch of videos for a company called Mod Devices, and it's like this little thing, and it does everything basically, like an effect thing. And we did a bunch of videos for them where we recreated famous sounds.
Oh, nice.
And trying to recreate that was really hard, and it's a lot of effects to get that going. Anyway, but I always loved that song. It was one of my favorite U2 songs as well for a long, long time. And I really like the bass line in it actually too. That's not something you say very often in U2, but I do really like that bass line.
Man, if it wasn't for Adam Clayton, you'd never know what the chords were in a U2 song.
No. Oh, the rhythm section, they really hold it all together. Trying to Throw Your Arms Around the World. It's a sort of kind of chilled song. I don't know, always kind of like that one. Love Is Blindness. That's a cool track too. Probably the most un-U2 sounding song on the album, but like it's the least U2
Okay. Yep.
stereotypical song.
Yeah, I can hear that.
But the production's really cool. The feedback sort of guitar is cool. Then a bit where you think he's going to go into this kind of bluesy solo, but he just plays two notes and then there's nothing. It's just cool. It's like, I like that sort of how it kind of works. And that kind of, he does a cool sort of tremolo pick riff right at the end. It's sort of like a melody and it's sort of this really fast
Oh yeah,
picking
yeah,
that he
yeah.
does.
Yep.
Right at the end. I really like that always. That's, I mean, they're all good songs, but they're probably my standout track.
Nice. How about you, Rob?
Heck, it's almost the perfect record. It's hard to. I think I listened to this more times than any record that we've done so far. It was just, there was so much to hear, and I started sort of 2 days ago, and I reckon I've listened to it 2-3 times a day up until this point.
They're good songs. They're just good songs.
There's always something to discover. It's like, watching Fight Club every time. There's something new to see. My favorite track was always Ultraviolet, Light My Way.
Oh, yeah.
There's just something, it's moody. I love the chord changes. It builds really nicely, but there's just something, it's like that song's like a warm blanket to me. It's just wrap myself in it. It's just great. Even better than The Real Thing is actually one of my favorite songs that I've ever played live.
Yeah,
It's
same
just
here.
so much fun to play. There's so much going on. And as a vocalist, at the time, I didn't really have anyone singing harmony. So you could bounce between the octaves that Bono's singing and make it a real performance, that song, which is
this album too, is this the album where he sort of found his falsetto voice? Because he didn't do that much before, did he? That was sort of, I think that was one of the first albums where he used his falsetto quite a lot. And then, I mean, he's quite known for his falsetto as well now.
Yeah.
But was it?
I'm not sure.
Did he do much of that
I'm trying to
before?
remember. I reckon you could be onto something here, Gabor. I think you are.
I think maybe that's another thing he tried to, because I mean, he's a great singer with a humongous range. But I think maybe for this whole trying to do something that doesn't sound like U2, I think maybe he found the falsetto-ness in there.
Yeah.
Oh, that falsetto voice in it. And it's a great voice, his falsetto voice.
Yeah. And
brilliant.
the vocal octaves, that's a cool part of the record and a bunch of songs.
And it's a real rock and roll thing to do, like Pink does it too. She goes from a verse to the chorus an octave apart. Just having that range is amazing. Until the End of the World, that riff is just so fat.
Yeah.
And the delay, it's just pure edge on that one. And I remember that on the Pop Mart live concert. The edge is just, it just smashes it. The Fly, same as you, totally dig that solo. It's just it's a masterpiece.
Yeah.
Like the way that it just builds and the intensity, and the band goes along with it. It's just really well put together. And finally, I think Acrobat, again, the intensity of the guitar parts and the solo and how the whole song just builds as one to the end. It's so wonderfully crafted. And it goes without saying, it's just pure like syrupy pop ballad, but it's dark as well. There's a Achtung Baby making of video, and it's on YouTube. I watched it a couple of years ago, but I refreshed last night a little bit of it. And so one came together during they were writing Mysterious Ways, and Edge was messing around. They had one idea for a bridge, it didn't work. Then they tried another idea for the bridge, which was actually the chord progressions to one. Okay. So they pulled it out of that, and then they're jamming on it for a while, and they really didn't think much of it. And then there's a video of Daniel Lanois and Brian Eno in the studio without U2. They chopped the tape up to make the song, and they're playing all the parts. And they said, so they're playing what they thought the keyboard should do and what the guitar should do. And U2 are sitting around the room going, okay, I know you're not sold on this song, but this gives you a sonic kind of idea of what we're thinking with what you came up with. And it's amazing to see them all sitting there, and there's Lanoir on guitar and Eno's just going dit, dit, dit on like a little synthesizer, and it sounds amazing. And you just see them start to build the song. They're talking in the control room and all those. It's a really great behind the scenes, because they came out of that rattle and hum Joshua Tree era, became the biggest but most hated band in the world.
Yeah.
You know, and that was really the key to them wanting to blow it all up and do what they did on this record, because they sort of got swept up in their own, you know, hugeness and ego, and they didn't really like it. They didn't like what they'd become.
Yeah.
And they wanted to just re-embrace that alternative kind of indie sound that they had before.
And then they became probably even huger than they were before.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Man, that whole
I mean-
that whole '90s chapter, it's a totally different streak. Like you guys were mentioning Pop Mart, those albums, Zeropa that followed, and they followed like Achtung Baby. It was a big chunk of things that was kicking off with this record for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. All right, we might take a short break. We'll get back with some more songs and 32 racks of Edge's front of house guitar rig.
Yeah.
This episode is brought to you by Fretboard Biology, the comprehensive online guitar course put together by Joe Elliott, ex-head of guitar at the Guitar Institute of Technology and the McNally Smith College of Music. I was one of the beta testers for the course and can say as a music educator, I was really impressed by the logical sequence of learning. The course has also been endorsed by players such as Brett Garsed and Greg Cup. For more details, check out the links in our show notes. All right, welcome back to Iconic Albums number 13. We're talking about Achtung Baby, U2's 7th studio album, a real shift for the band, a real journey into thicker and darker textures in the writing and production. So, favorite songs. All right, I'll give you mine. I'm going to pretty much echo just everything you guys just said, except I don't really like Mysterious Ways that much.
Oh.
It's not one of my favorites, but it's still a good listen in the context of the album. But yeah, I'm kind of with you there.
I'll skip that track.
You guys are wrong.
There is no wrong. There's only opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. But I mean, sonically awesome, and that guitar intro, and we'll definitely talk about that stuff. And
Yeah.
props to you, Gabor, for recreating that with some gadgets, man. Killer.
It was hard.
So many good moments. Ultraviolet could be my favorite U2 song ever. Could be ever.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right on that one. It's pretty close. No, I didn't say there was right and wrong, but you're right there.
Yeah.
Man, I love that song. It's sort of like what was the Diesel song?
All Come Together.
Yeah. It's my All Come Together for U2. Yeah, it's just killer, and it's probably maybe got some of the most traditional Edge guitar sounds up till this point. So as in some of those, those dual delays like the dotted eighth plus the straight crotchets, like Joshua Tree kind of sounds.
No.
Yeah, it kind of sounds like the sequel to The Unforgettable Fire.
Yeah.
It's got that. Yeah, it's comfortable again.
It's funny, like, this album being such a big departure for U2, and I'm sure at the time when it came out, I thought, man, this is awesome. I know I loved it when it came out, and it felt modern and new, but I've heard it so many times, it just sounds like U2 to me.
Yeah.
So, even though what we're saying is 100% correct, the shift, but yeah, Ultraviolet's great. The Fly is probably maybe my second favorite U2 song. That's just killer. I love the live versions. Like that solo is the best. And then Edge, he sings the falsetto parts as he's finishing the solo. He's the coolest. He's the coolest, man. And so yeah, that's
Except for when he falls off the stage. You've seen that, where he walks and falls off. Yeah. Anyway,
serious.
have you seen that footage? It was going viral for a while. It was from one of the concerts.
Okay.
He was walking I think it was where they had that big sort of heart-shaped catwalk
wow.
that went through the audience, and he was walking along it playing guitar.
Yeah.
And then he walked and he just kind of looked forward and he fell off the stage.
Oh, gee.
Yeah.
Far out. Man, the only time I've broken
Sorry, go on.
bones is falling off a catwalk. That's another story.
Oh,
Okay. That'll be on the Broken Bones podcast. So yeah, The Fly, unreal. Where was I had some other stuff here. Who's Going to Ride Your Wild Horses? Just the start of it, those massive, thick, kind of dissonant chords. They're so noisy and clangy, and yet
The big hollow body sound.
Yeah.
You know, you can really hear the hollow body on that.
totally.
guitar.
It's just
Yeah,
howling, man. It's
There's so many good songs. That's the thing. It's hard to kind of pick the best songs because they're all
yeah,
good. pretty much on that
And
album.
I guess I think we've hinted at this before. Like for all these records we've been choosing, you know, they're killer albums. They're not. It's not like your two favorite
Yeah.
songs plus a bunch of filler. So, 100%.
Yeah.
Acrobat, that really angry probing solo with the trem picking. That's killer. Heaps of stuff. I guess.
And
Yeah, jump in.
sorry, is it just me as well, or is this one of the few albums where the Edge actually does solo?
Look, the Fly solo was a bit of a departure.
Yeah.
And he said it himself. He said it was a lot of fun, but it was a bit different. I think on Rattle and Hum he did a couple of more traditional rock solos.
Yeah, Bullet in the Blue Sky, that's got a bit of a guitar
Yeah.
solo
Oh,
thing,
yeah,
in it,
yeah.
doesn't
Solo.
it? Yeah.
It was sort of rare. It was kind of a bit of a rarity, and since then as well, I
Yeah.
think with a lot of the newer stuff, there aren't many solo. There's melodic
Yeah.
part, but not really solos. And this album seems to have quite a lot of solos on it. I don't know if that's maybe a departure again as well, but anyway, sorry.
No, not at all. That's a great point on Fly for sure. It is a killer solo, and the way the chord progression changes, like Rob was saying, the band shifts, starts in E minor,
Yeah.
ends up in E major, and it's great, man. It's great.
What's the semitone between friends?
And you're always one fret from greatness. That's what I say.
Exactly.
Let's talk. We've already kind of verged onto tones, which you have to for the Edge. There's no way of avoiding it. I guess this record too was the greatest variety of tones that we'd heard from the Edge. You know what I love? He's such a mix of vintage and cutting edge technology. He's got the old Vox amps. He's got the old. Most of his guitars are old vintage stuff, but he's pulling out this latest technology or warping it in some kind of way. Even back in the early days with the Echoplex or whatever he was using.
Yeah.
Guitars and gear. So I'll just put a couple of things out there and please join in, guys. His, from what I understand, he started leaning on Les Pauls a lot more for this record to get thicker, bigger tones. His Strat and Explorer were his main two guitars for a lot of the earlier records.
Yeah.
And that Explorer is, it looks rock and roll, of course, but it's, from what I've read, it's a cleaner sounding guitar than it looks. It doesn't quite have the heft of a Les Paul. So apparently he had two Les Pauls for the records. He had a white 975 Les Paul, inspired by Steve Jones of the Sex Pistols, who had a white Les Paul.
Uh-huh.
And he had an 83 gold top. And I wonder if that was a deluxe with mini humbuckers. Were they still making deluxes in 83?
Maybe.
Yeah, I don't know. Seems it might be too late.
83 is the Neuland era, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, still. Hard to know.
I don't
I don't
remember.
know. Get Trogley on the phone. Where is he?
I don't know who Trogley is, but he sounds like he's be helpful.
He'd be very helpful.
There's you mentioned the Rickenbacker, the 330 on Mysterious Ways. And the hollow body, so an ES 330, which is kind of like a 335, except it's totally hollow.
Totally hollow. Yeah, no center block.
Yeah, and a trapeze, usually. Trapeze tailpiece, I think.
Yeah.
So that was on Who's Going to Ride Your Wild Horses, and One apparently had that.
Yeah.
Amps. 8 Vox AC30s chained together.
Such
As
a
you do.
Brian May thing to do,
Yeah.
isn't it? Yeah.
And Man, there's not enough effects loops in the world to get your delays after the grunt. You've got to run them into the front of the amp, which is such a great part of his sound. Has always been the delay hitting something dirty, and probably more delays afterwards as well. But
yeah.
do you guys do that much? I always have them after.
Yeah, I've experimented with them in the front, but I really don't like how the difference between how loud it is on a clean and a dirty, because I'm a channel switching guy. So it's really hard to get the balance clean and dirty. When you hit it, they just jump out like crazily. So in the effects loop always works for me because it's much more even across all your different gain stacking. It's just much more controlled and subtle, where it's hard to do really subtle through the front end. It's either there or it's gone.
Yeah, you got to be really set up for that thing, I reckon.
I'm an everything through the front end guy. I never use the effects loop. But I'm a pretty much using a kind of clean, semi-broken up amp, and then all my gain coming from the front. I never use effects loop. But there's something about that sound when you have a crank, a dirty amp, and you run a delay into it. It has a sound to it. But I mean, I know where you're coming from, Rob. Where you need different sounds. It's hard to keep it under control. But if that's the one thing you do, or if you just use it for that one thing, it's such a cool sound, and big reverbs as well, running them into a dirty amp. It sounds really cool. I really like it. It has a sound to it that I really like.
Totally.
Oh, absolutely. It's like David Gilmour's got it, and then much later, the Jack White and Dan from the Black Keys, like all of those sounds fuzz into delay into the front end. It has that sound, but you have to be set up. As you said, you can't be a Swiss Army guitar player and really expect the delay in the front end to work.
There was, I guess the man of the match for this album were the Korg A3s, the two rack mounts units he had. I don't know heaps about these. I remember Korg, like every man and his dog had a Korg foot pedal in the 90s that I knew, an A5 or an A7 or something that followed. But was it the A3 or the A2?
He had the A3s. He had two A3s.
Okay, yeah. Do you guys know much about those? I mean, other than I only know it's a multi-effects. It's got an interesting memory card in the front that
and you can expand. You need to get that particular Mysterious Way sound, for example. You need a certain expander card to put in the front that has a certain presets on it or something like that.
Yeah.
No, I don't know. I've been wanting to get one for ages, but they're hard to find, especially at 240 volt.
Oh, really?
But then you need the step down converter and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Because what's his face? I've been trying to think of his name. That's his main effect unit as well. Country guy, English country guy, with the signature Music Man.
Albert Lee.
Yeah. So that's his main effect unit as well, the Korg A3.
Nice.
Because I remember seeing an interview with him, and he was saying, because he's not internet savvy, his wife bought, 30 of them online because they keep breaking. So he bought all the second-hand
He's got all of them.
He's got all of them. Between him and the Edge.
The Edge has got two.
He keeps buying them because he uses the delay and reverb and chorus and something
really?
of that. That's Albert Lee's sound. Yeah.
Wow. Man, I hear people talking up the distortions in those units as being part of that tone as well. And for early 90s rack gear, that's a big call.
Yeah. I need to get one now. I have to. Just after this. This is it.
Yeah.
I'm getting one.
Okay. Man, we will follow that closely.
Oh, yeah.
On the Zoo TV tour, which was basically U2 trying to replicate these new sounds. I don't know if you guys have seen any pictures of his pedal board. He's got this giant Bradshaw rig.
Yeah.
He's got sort of like two refrigerator-sized racks. You can see the A3s in there. The pictures I've seen are pretty blurry, but kind of standard stuff. There's all the Bradshaw switching stuff. There's the pedals in the drawers. Some of the pedals I saw, there's Big Muff, a couple of Boss overdrives, a super overdrive and a turbo overdrive. a Boss CS3. I think I've read somewhere that the CS3 was all over the record. I mean,
Okay.
it's hard to hear that, but there's that there, the compression, and in the rack the Boss FET preamp.
Yeah, it's a big one.
Green
for him.
thing, yeah. That's a cool. That's actually quite a cool unit. That with a belt pack.
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
That's cool. He should really attach it to his belt.
If
I don't
he's
think it
serious.
survived falling off stage. Actually, they're pretty well made, those things.
Yeah.
Like
I
a
wonder,
tank.
I wonder why Boss. I mean, Boss are not into reissuing stuff. If they
No.
reissue, they do something more to the technology.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
I've been told.
Well,
it's-
JHS does
They
a
did
version
a
of that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Ah, okay. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. There you go. Yeah, I'd be surprised if no one had done that.
If you want copies of stuff, JHS are the guys to
Yeah.
do it.
Right.
They're the kings of making copies of everything.
Uh-huh.
And you got his delay unit there, Matt? What he was using for his delays?
TC, I think it was.
Yeah, TC Electronics 2290.
2290.
okay, yeah,
Two
yeah,
of them
yeah.
as well.
Yeah, and he liked that because you can control like the in and the out, like times and gain structures. His rig rundown is
With
like
Alashu.
amazing.
Insane.
Yeah,
The more recent one, yeah.
yeah, and not much has changed. You know, he
No.
says that he embraces new technology because he just wants it to work.
Yeah.
So as much as he loves the old stuff, he, as you said, he likes to move forward with things that are going to be a bit more reliable.
Yeah, yeah.
And they go right into that. He's got a padded room with the amps in it, all that crazy stuff.
Oh, it's insane.
But the thing that, sorry, you go.
Yeah, no, you go.
It was just, I love the story of the 76 Explorer that, you know, he went to New York with his parents and in one of the guitar shops there, he just saw it in the window and immediately got it. And now he owns 11, all from the same era because they have two different necks.
Yeah.
So there's the pre-April and the post-April apparently. And so he's got 11 of them, all very close serial numbers.
Nice.
Yeah, quite amazing that he's done that. And on that last tour with that rig rundown, there was 26 songs in the set and he had 23 different guitars.
Well,
I love that.
It's a lot. So do I.
that's what I was going to say because I was going to mention that before when Matt was talking about the guitars because he uses the guitars he used in the studio live for the songs because they have a certain voice and that's what he wants to use and that's why he carries all the gear around as well because he wants the rack unit delay that he used in 1986 for that song on the album. That's what he uses live. And I guess if you have just about unlimited funds like they do, you can have 2 semi-trailers just for his guitar.
That's, man.
Because
if
it's
you
insane.
can,
This stuff is
how fun would that be?
So
Yeah.
Man.
be
I
high
think-
pressure though, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, didn't Dallas Shoe say, was it in that rig rundown? He says, you know, we roll the dice every night because he's creating all these textures on the fly. No pun.
Yeah.
But he's doing it live. They've got all these old amps they're trying to keep going. Although surely you could blow a couple of amps and you still got another 10.
Well, how many amps did it had like that whole room just amps backstage almost.
yeah.
It's-
And then spares for everything.
Lots of spares, yeah. It's insane, yeah.
I saw him on Letterman. I can't remember when. Letterman, that's probably going back a few years anyway. But
Yeah.
they wheeled out this rack of amps. That's for a one song TV appearance.
Yeah.
They're all little amps, so like Voxes and deluxe reverbs
And
and
the
stuff
Luxes,
like that.
yeah.
Yeah, but
You got to love that dedication to delivering exactly to the fans and to himself, probably.
yeah,
It's just like, I can do this. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Guys like him and Bonamassa that just take the best of the best out on the road,
Yeah.
regardless of the cost, because they know people want to see it. It's as much, gear junkies and the spectacle of that part of the show as it is about the songs and, all the effects and pyros and video screens.
yeah.
And I mean, this is post Achtung Baby, but he has the holy grail of the line 6 effect.
Oh, yeah. Tell us
Yeah.
about that, Gabor, because I know.
The
You're a
golden
fan.
rack mount
Yep.
distortion pro,
Yeah.
which I think they
Yeah.
only ever made 5 of them,
Yeah, right.
and he has 3 of them.
And
because
Albert Lee's got the other 2.
maybe Albert Lee has the other 2. Yeah. But yeah, so because he loved the Line 6. What is it? DM4, the distortion modeler, the golden one,
Okay.
the yellow golden one, which is I find really funny too, because you have all these, especially back, going back a few years. Now things have changed a bit. Going back a few years, you get all these digital snobs, people that say, no, you got to have analog. You can't do it digital. And there's a guy who literally can have anything he wants.
Yeah.
And he still, because I remember in that rig rundown, he said 80% or something of all his distorted sounds are the Line 6.
Oh,
Yeah.
really? Wow.
So, and the old Line 6 unit comes through again. So just
There you go.
throwing that out there. Because
And
I
they
love
made it
that.
all MIDI for him too. So
Well, that's why he wanted it,
Yeah.
because he wanted the pedal, but he wanted it with more storage capabilities than 4.
Okay.
And he wanted it all MIDI switchable, so he could switch it via. So Line 6 made them especially for him.
Wow.
And I think it's something like 5 were ever made, and I think he has 2 or 3 of them. And one came up on Reverb like 5-6 years ago, or maybe 3-4 years ago, and went for stupid money.
imagine getting in a bidding war with the Edge.
Maybe he bought it. You never know. Fair one.
Oh,
Oh, yeah. What's the shipping to Ireland for this thing? Awesome.
man.
All right. I reckon.
What about some fun facts, Matt?
Oh, you got fun facts.
Fun
Rob,
facts.
fun fact.
Fun facts.
All right, so
I'll get the studio onto that jingle. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
all right, so most people probably know this, but Bono always records his vocals with a Shure SM58 from the control room.
Yes.
That's amazing. People talk Neumanns and
Yeah.
all these ridiculous studio mics, and here's one of the greatest rock vocalists of all time, and he does it with a 58. He talked about creating the persona for The Fly. He took Lou Reed's glasses, Jim Morrison's pants, Elvis's jacket and hair to create it. He called it his rock identikit,
Yeah.
which is really cool.
And that was part of reinventing U2 and not being so
Yeah.
serious about it. Hey?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Richard Branson asked if he could use Even Better Than the Real Thing for his Virgin Cola, but U2 refused because they were trying to take on Coke, and he wanted to say Even
Wow.
Better Than the Real Thing, and because of the lyrical content of that song, which is kind of what it's about, he wanted to use it, but U2 said no.
Imagine if Fabio would have sung Even Better Than a Real Thing for the I Can't Believe It's Not Butter.
I know.
Now that would be fantastic. Anyway, sorry.
On the Pop Mart tour, during one in concert, Bono used to always give a shout out to Michael Hutchins.
Right. Okay.
That's a nice little fun fact that he used to do there, and it brings it back local. There was something, in Ultraviolet, during the recording, Larry Mullen dropped a drumstick midway through the song. After much debate, they decided to use the take to preserve its spontaneity.
Oh, wow.
So it'd be something to go back and have a listen to
Yes,
now, knowing
that's
that that's
cool.
in there.
Love that.
And Who's Gonna Ride Your Wild Horses? The single is a completely different mix from the album version. I meant to go and have a listen to it, but and the band actually prefers that. They replaced the guitar with keyboards in the single release version of that song.
Cool.
So there's 2 versions, and one thing gets Bono's back up, and so many people tell him that they use One as a wedding song. He said
Right.
because it's very dark. He says it's an anti-romantic song. We are one, but not the same. We get to carry each other. Rather than, he said that people hear the words wrong. So he says there's something very unromantic about the lyrics in this song. And it kind of irks it. Similar to Every Breath You Take. We talked about that.
Yeah.
Where people use that as a wedding song, and it's a stalker.
I'm sure I've played both those songs at weddings.
Oh, yeah. Man. I've played Better Man by Pearl Jam as a wedding waltz. so
not cool.
that's like the most inappropriate. And I've done Working Class Man as a wedding waltz too.
Oh, God.
What's wrong
Yeah.
with that?
Thought you'd like that, Matt.
I miss playing gigs, man.
And that kind of wraps up all my little fun facts for this album.
Rob, fun fact.
Boop, 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 boop.
Anything else, should I?
I think we're pretty much. Oh, the only other thing was the amps mic'd up in the studio. So you mentioned the 8 chain linked box AC30s.
Yep.
Well, they were mic'd up tight mic with a SM57 and then an AKG 414 about 4 feet away. And that's how pretty much for every track is a very similar setup to get the Edge's sound.
Yeah, cool. Hey, you're going to talk picks as well, Rob.
Oh, yeah. So in that rig rundown,
Yep.
his guitar tech explains how he uses these. I guess the example that we could probably use are these max grip Jim Dunlops. So they've got like a scratchy.
That's a good demonstration on
Yeah.
the mic.
So he actually scratches
Yeah.
across the strings with the grip part of the pick. And that's how he gets that attack. And when you listen to some of the songs, and I'm sure people will go back and watch that rig rundown where his tech demonstrates, and as soon as he does it, you go, yeah, that is,
Wow.
that is a very, very signature sound, and it's the only way you could get it.
Yeah, cool.
And there's a few players that have that, like Keith Urban attacks in with the side of the pick.
Okay.
That's how he gets a lot of the aggressive pick technique
wow.
from him. So he like stabs at the string with the edge of the pick. So yeah, there's quite a few interesting pick techniques out there, especially like Brian May with the coin and
Yeah.
There's a guy, there's a YouTube series, and he did like super slow-mo cameras on famous guitar players' hands, like Steve Morse and people like that, to see the picking technique.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
quite interesting, some of that stuff, yeah.
He's got the camera over the pickups as well.
Yes, like right, it's a couple
you
of
can-
different angles.
Yeah.
And they're like these sort of super slow motion cameras. And he just sees the picking, how they pick. And he did a bunch of guys. I think he did Ingve, he did Steve Morse, maybe Satriani. I don't know, a bunch of guys, and how different the picking technique is. It's quite interesting, and how it changes the whole sound of the playing, the way you attack the guitar with the pick.
Yeah, wow.
yeah. I have a picking technique that I call the cheese grater because basically wears my first fingernail away and tears the skin away from my second finger.
Yeah, I always have a bit of my fingernail on my index finger, my right hand.
Yeah,
is
mine's the
missing.
same.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wearing out.
Awesome, man. Achtung Baby. Check it out, people. That's
Cool.
I think we've covered the record. I mean, we could talk all night about this, but I reckon we've done a good job here. Rob, Gabor, thank you so much. Rob, where can people follow you? And maybe tell us about your YouTube page.
Oh, yeah, I've just moved over to YouTube for my live stream shows during this lockdown. So the page name is Rob Rhodes Music. So you can go head over to youtube.com/c/Rob Rhodes Music.
Excellent. And Gabor.
Okay. You can also go to YouTube and check out youtube.com/c/the SuperFunAwesomeHappyTime pedal show, all one word. And that's me. So yeah, just myself, and then also myself and my good friend Alex, who kind of look at pedals and amps and guitars and do lots of giggling and stuff. And all gear and giggling related stuff.
Perfect. All right. Fantastic. Fellas, thanks so much for checking out Achtung Baby.
Thanks,
and,
gents.
Catch you next time.
See ya.
Bye.
All right, thanks for joining us for another Guitar Speak podcast, Iconic Albums. I've really enjoyed putting these conversations together with Rob and Gabor, and it's been a really cool addition to our podcast show, which every week has deep dive one-on-one interviews as well. That's been our bread and butter for the last 5 years, and that will be continuing as well. Thanks to Fretboard Biology for sponsoring today's episode. Check out the links in the show notes. All right, my name's Matt Wakeling. You've been listening to the Guitar Speak podcast. And in the words of Michael Schenker, German guitarist from UFO, The Scorpions, and MSG,
keep rocking, keep on rocking.
keep on rocking indeed. I'll catch you next time. Bye now.